Okay. Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Greetings to you from Spicer Adventist University, Pune, India. On behalf of the Office of Research and Innovation at Spicer Adventist University, I would like to welcome the administration, faculty, students, participants, and presenters from around the globe, representing at least 5 national, international higher learning institutions for our very first virtual international conference on scientific research findings 2021. Welcome aboard for an exciting venture exploring research findings by research scholars from around the globe. I want to begin with a small word from the Bible. The Word of God says in Ephesians chapter 3, verse 20, "Now to him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think, according to the power that works in us, to him be glory in the church of Christ Jesus to all generations forever and ever. Amen." Surely I must say that our God has put things in order for us to witness this event, learn and apply it for the betterment of academia, society, nation, and the world. So once again, I welcome each one of you. Enjoy the entire program today and tomorrow. And I assure you that by the end of the program, you will take one new idea, a new thought-provoking idea with you. Enjoy. At this time, I would like to request Pastor Wanlal Tlwanga, to come up and offer a word of prayer, followed by our respected Vice Chancellor who will be opening the ceremony. Pastor Wanlal Tlwanga Khuma.
Shall we pray? Most gracious Heavenly Father, the creator and the sustainer of this universe, we want to thank you so much for the life you have given to each one of us today. We also would like to thank for the very good time you have given to each one of us this evening for international conference. Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us to engage in a meaningful discussion. Allow us to grow closely as a group and nurture the bonds of community today. Fill us with your grace and continue to remind us that all that we do here today, all that we accomplish is for the pursuit of the truth, for the greater glory of you. Father, we pray that you will bless all the presenters who are going to present their paper, as well as all the audience who are going to listen their presentation. Bless each one of us today. These few blessings we ask in Jesus' precious name. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. At this time, I would like to introduce you all to our respected Honorable Vice Chancellor of Spice Adventist University, Dr. Sanjeevan R. Sood, who is also going to inaugurate the program and give a keynote to us. Sir, over to you.
Mr. Santosh Kumar, members of this international webinar, presenters from different countries and different institutions. I'm so glad that we could meet together through this webinar for an intellectual dialogue. Yes, times such as these require the academia to come together, think together, work together, and act together. In recent times, we have experienced lot of challenges that each one of us and the entire world is facing. But in spite of these challenges, we are blessed for the many opportunities that we receive. Opportunities through technology and through the different methods that have been used for research and development. The present millennium, as you are aware, has ushered in a lot of opportunities and challenges. We need to make best use of these opportunities and challenges for our own personal development, but above all, for the contribution that we can make to the society. Each one of us in our presentations, in our work, need to perform such activities that our contribution will be at least a drop of water in the ocean of knowledge. Today we are blessed with so many resources, technology that we have at our disposal, which was not there in the past. I am sure that with all of us working together, each one of us will be able to contribute to the necessary field of knowledge. It is our duty and desire that we work together, especially as members of the Seventh day Adventist Church, because we have a mission to preach God's word and proclaim the message of his soon return. And we all together can do it in our own spheres of work and continue to be an asset to the institution that we are working at. When we talk about webinars such as this, I'm sure you all will agree with me, the concept of webinar was not so familiar before the pandemic, but now many of us are using this medium to continue our association, research, and development. And it is so nice that this afternoon we all could meet together and we will definitely learn from one another through these presentations. I am sure this is only a beginning, and as we move forward during these 2 days, we will learn a lot, we will make new friends, we will come with new resolutions, and I am sure by the end of this webinar, all of us will have some important concepts developed, and we will be working towards the future of various different topics that have been presented. After presenting of the topics and various different papers, we need to move forward. We need to have a concept paper, and definitely with it we will be able to proceed. I am thankful to Mr. Santosh Kumar for the initiative and excellent work that he has done in spite of his ill health in the last few days. Once again, on behalf of Spicer Adventist University, I greet each one of you. I welcome each one of you. I can see many of our former workers, former students who are now research scholars in different parts of the world. We are so glad that you have joined us. May God bless you. And I am sure we together, unitedly, will be able to proclaim the message that God has given to us. May God bless all of you.
Thank you, sir. At this time, we have a special song. Following that, Dr. Abhijay Wagmare, a faculty and assistant professor in the Department of English, will be our first moderator who will introduce us to the first presenter. First of all, we'll have a special music.
The question was raised as my conscience fell, a silly little lie. It didn't mean much, but it lingers still in the corners of my mind. Still you call me to walk on the edge of this world, to spread my dreams and fly. But the future's so far, my heart is so frail, I think I'd rather stay inside. But you love me anyway. It's like nothing in life that I've ever known. Yes, you love me anyway. Oh Lord, how you love me, how you love me. It took me more than my strength to simply be still, to seek but never find. All the reasons we change, the reasons I doubt, and why do loved ones have to die? But you love me anyway. It's like nothing in life that I've ever known. Yes, you love me anyway. Oh Lord, how you love me. I am a thorn in your crown, but you love me anyway. I am a sweat from your brow, but you love me anyway. I am the nail in your wrist, but you love me anyway. I am Judas's kiss, but you love me anyway. See, now I am the man who yelled out from the crowd for your blood to be spilled on this earth-shaking ground. Yes, then I turned away with a smile on my face with this Yes, you love me anyway. It's like nothing in life that I've ever known. Yes, you love me anyway. Oh Lord, how you love me. You love me. Yes, you love me. Yes, you love me. Yes, you love me. How you love me. How you love me. How you love me.
Dr. Abhijay.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here this afternoon. Today, we are pleased to welcome Dr. Jacques Loboshi Kaigema, a very special guest from Adventist University of Central Africa, Rwanda. Dr. Kaigema is the Dean of Education with specialization in sociolinguistics and emphasizing more on language contact. Professor Kaigema holds both an MA and DLit, that is, Doctorate of Literature and Philosophy in African Language, from the University of South Africa. His previous research focused on language contact, that is, loanword allocation, language cohabitation, and the rise of English in post-genocide Rwanda. He has held many administrative positions in the same academic institute as an academic registrar, head Department of English Language and Literature, and Dean of the Faculty of Education. Sir has also written many articles on loanword allocation, teaching English as an official language, and English as a global language. He has also published many books in the same area. As we all know that English is a global language and had a great influence over most languages of the world for nearly 2 centuries now, with this upcoming presentation, we are looking forward to understand the different role of English as a global language in post-genocide Rwanda. I take this opportunity to request our today's eminent speaker, Dr. Kaigema, to share with us his expert opinion on the topic, the dynamism of English as a global language in post-genocide Rwanda. With that, I request all the participants to kindly mute themselves. I would now welcome Dr. Kaigema on behalf of Spicer Adventist University, to present his topic in the International Virtual Conference on Scientific Research Findings organized by the Office of Research and Innovation, Spicer Adventist University, Pune, India. Dr. Kaigema.
Professor, you need to be unmuted.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Dear researchers, it's a privilege to present a research topic entitled The Dynamism of English as a Global Language in Post-Genocide Rwanda at this virtual international conference organized by Spicer Adventist University. Now, the title itself shows that this is about the power of English as a global language in post-genocide Rwanda. So this paper discusses the rise of English in post-genocide Rwanda and its impact on French and English and Kinyarwanda. English has risen sharply for the last 3 decades because of the will of the Rwandan government to find ways of communicating with the external world in a more powerful language, English, than the previously predominant one, French. It also highlights major domains where English speaks of its strength and the factors that led to the spread of English. The first point to discuss about here is Kinyarwanda inside and outside Rwanda. Kinyarwanda is primarily the language spoken in Rwanda, which is a landlocked country on the African continent with square kilometers, 26,338 in size, and with a population of 13,188,321 as of March 2021. So this is an estimate. Rwanda is thus the most populated country in Africa with a population density of almost 420 people per square kilometers. More than 24,000 Rwandans speak English. Rwanda is one of the territories where English is spoken as an official institutionalized second language, L2, in the fields such as government, law, and education, according to Jenkins, 2003. English is gaining more influence over French. The motivation of using a prestigious language like English is highly noticed in every activity of life. So David Crystal, 2003, notes that new political decisions on the matter continue to be made. For example, Rwanda gave English official status in 1996. This policy will make linguists have special considerations for Rwanda, unlike its neighbor, Burundi, which is not represented in the list of speakers of English in countries where the language has had special relevance. In fact, Burundi shares almost entirely the same historical and political background. The second point to discuss is writing in English is fashionable. So today, most people in Rwanda would like to use English in everyday life. The subtitle above recalls Senghor's question, why do we write in French? And he answers, we write in French because French is a universal language, he answered. So this is from Ngugi wa Thiong'o, a Kenyan outstanding author, 2005. However, in Rwanda, the aim of writing in English is totally different. So the question is to know why today we prefer to write in English rather in other languages in order to express ideas more accurately, can be answered in the perspective of the supremacy of English globally. Unlike Senghor, who wanted to tame the French language for cultural, political, and literary purposes, there is no leading literary figure in Rwanda who writes to promote English culturally, politically, or literally, but rather people write English for lucrative and prestige ends. A third point to discuss is a new form of English in Rwanda. It has been noticed that where English gained the influence in the outer circle or the inner circle or the expanding circle, there have been some forms of English which emerged. So Rwanda is no exception. So varieties of languages very often result from the non-conformity to the pronunciation model of the standard language. Although mistakes are part of the learning process, they simply reveal a failure in language competence. Due to various forms of English worldwide in general, and nationwide in particular, the English spoken in Rwanda reflects interference from East African English, West African, Nigerian English, Indian English, American English, South African English, French, Kinyarwanda. In addition to mistakes due to French and Kinyarwanda interference, varieties of English are also responsible for the mistakes which are very often made. Most mistakes occur in the area of phonology, orthography, syntax, and semantics. Because of the phonological perception and production, some mispronounced English words have become integrated loan words in Kinyarwanda. English name changes from 1994 onward. Today we can see many names in English displayed on some buildings, in schools, on shops. In Rwanda, it is currently easier to count shops and commercial buildings with fewer names in French than in English because of the significant drop in French usage. From 1994, Rwandans find it more fashionable and prestigious to use a global language like English than French. So the interest in this shift of name, so this is a paradigm shift. The interest in this shift of name change triggered the motivation for researching on the rise and spread of English in Rwanda after the 1994 events. The sense of observation and curiosity of the use of the word house is an example. On most names of shops, firms, and organizations, challenges researchers in language contact and change. For example, a careful eye can read the following names with the word house in them in the city of Kigali: Bluster House, Centenary House, Prince House, City Plaza House, Ebenezer House, Matthias House, and so on and so forth. Display of misspelling and mispronunciation resulting from chauvinism and prestige. This is another point to discuss. Psychologically speaking, the human mind wants something new, fashionable, and more powerful. Due to the power of English in today's life, people want to cope with the new reality of living. Thus, this is observable in the names they display on their shops, buses, garments, commercial products, schools, just to name a few, to attract the eye of the beholder. For example, the mistakes in spelling and sometimes pronunciation show how chauvinistic people are. You can read these titles and you will find mistakes. Grateful restaurant instead of grateful restaurant. Minister of healing for minister of healing. Church of revelation for church of revelation. Church of restoration for church of restoration. Peace motel for peace motel. Welcome for welcome with one L instead of two L's. New first class for you for new first class for you. The use of first here, first class instead of first class, results from the mispronunciation of first in East African English. Fundraising instead of fundraising. Nursery for nursery. Another point is globalization as a major factor for the spread of English. Most people see globalization as a major factor in the spread of English in Rwanda. Globalization creates free flow of information on the information highway, which is dominated by English. Indeed, the views of the respondents tally with those of Crystal, 2003, in his book entitled English as a Global Language. The spread of English in the world in general is the result of the first migrations of mother tongue English speakers from England, Scotland, and Ireland, predominantly to North America, Australia, New Zealand, and the establishment of British colonies in Africa, Asia, and Central America, according to Jenkins, 2003. So this was the British Empire. The rise of English in Rwanda is linked to the position of English as a global language, and it has been reinforced by the change of the regime, whereby the repatriation of Rwandans who returned from exile in the neighboring English-speaking countries triggered the use of English in all the major domains of public and private sectors. In his seminal speech on the occasion of the 50th anniversary of the British Council, Cashel, 1985, proposed his conceptualization of the then situation of the English-speaking world in terms of three concentric circles: inner circle, outer circle, and expanding circle. Thus, he proposed the following diagram. You can see the countries in the expanding circle, the outer circle, the inner circle. English as a language of learning and teaching. Today, learning English is very important because it offers better opportunities in communication and employment. The rise of English in Rwanda is an asset rather than a threat to Kinyarwanda because it connects Rwanda to the external world. However, it may lead to diminishing use and role of French and Kinyarwanda. English in the media. English is extensively used in the media. In the novel, the media are at the center of everyone's life. The press, radio, advertising, and especially television. Even the hint of nuance can make a difference. The English language has been an important medium of the press for nearly 400 years, according to Crystal, 2003. People listen to the news broadcast, watch TV programs, and read newspapers in English because they want to improve their level of performance in it and because of their positive attitude towards English. Although English does not dominate the media now, this is a sign of motivation for people who are eager to improve their English performance. The state runs the largest radio and television stations. On the national television, Rwanda Television and the radio broadcast, news broadcast programs in English are given equal weight as in Kinyarwanda and French. Another point to look at in this sociolinguistic topic is the impact of English, code switching, and borrowing. In a bilingual context, code switching is very common. This impacts on the structure of Kinyarwanda. In Rwanda, it is very common to hear a bilingual speaker using French and English words without altering the grammatical structure, the morphological and phonological aspects of a foreign word, a phrase, or a sentence. Frequently used code switches from French may include simple words such as donc, so, that means so. Vraiment, meaning truly. Responsable, instead of responsible. Sérieux, instead of serious. Grave, serious. Comment ça va? That is, how are you? How are you doing? Ça va? Is it okay? It is 10 o'clock. So these are some examples of code switching. The last item, but not the least, English and the young generation and the impact on the future role of Kinyarwanda. English is viewed by the young generation as a language of hope, empowerment, opportunities, openness, and prestige. Young Rwandans are eager to use English at school, in various English language centers, sports, cinema, music, and other daily activities which attract the youth. Young generation users of English include young artists, musicians, football players, drivers, and civil servants. So this is what I can share with you concerning the dynamism of English in the post-genocide Rwanda. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, sir, for your brief insights on language as a global, the importance of language on the global platform. And I would also like to state that language was not a mere string of words, but it had a suggestive power, which is well beyond the immediate and lexical meaning. And hence, we could see that in Rwanda also, the lexical meaning was being understood, and that's why there was a change from the 1996 onwards that could be seen as per Dr. Kaigema has presented in his presentation. So I would like to congratulate Dr. Kaigema, and I would like this session, I would ask all the participants to, that the session is open for question and answers. And if you have any questions, you can just place it on the in the message box so that we could take that questions in the chat box. Sir, I have a question in the meantime. Shall I ask you one question, sir?
Sure.
Yeah. So as we have as India have adopted LPG, that is liberalization, privatization, and globalization change in the year 1991. So it have some impact on the economy, and it opened up many avenues for the prosperity of India. So similarly, can we state that when Rwanda adopted this language of English, and in the year 1996, so can we say that this switch of language, does this have a bigger impact on the economic growth as well as the global economy, so that it has a major role to prosper in terms of ideological implications for the upcoming for the upgradation of the people's lifestyle over there?
Yeah, thank you for the question.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can.
Yeah, thank you for this relevant question. Surely, English has an economic impact in Rwanda, because most language centers run English language teaching, and they gain money. People who write in English, they publish in English, and they gain something. So it's not just a matter of, it's not a matter of ideology or culture. No, the economy benefits a lot from the use of English in Rwanda.
Yes, thank you, sir. So I have one more question. Shall I ask you?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So as the famous writer Ngugi wa Thiong'o I've been reading the Decolonizing the Mind of which is written by Ngugi wa Thiong'o,
Yes.
and
yes.
in which he have stated certain reasons that the adaptation of English language was done not only for the purpose of learning this language, particular language, which is a global language, but they wanted to come out of their comfort zone, and they wanted to widespread the culture that is being prevalent in in South Africa. So
Yeah.
is it relevant to Rwanda also, sir?
No, I don't think so. So you see, with language globalization, there are authors who have the views according to which subjects at primary school, secondary school should be taught in indigenous languages. And this is the idea, the opinion of Ngugi wa Thiong'o and other African authors. But it is not shared, that idea is not shared by other authors. So it's the aim of decolonizing the mind by using indigenous languages does not have a majority of supporters, because if you want to teach mathematics, physics, chemistry in indigenous languages, some concepts will not find you will not find words to teach, for example, chemical symbols in Kiswahili. Or yet, Ngugi wa Thiong'o says that those subjects, chemistry, physics, and others, must be taught in Gikuyu or Kiswahili. But some countries are not at the level of using indigenous languages. Therefore, we have to use global languages like English or even French, because those concepts were developed in those languages, especially European languages. So I don't know what happens in India.
Okay, sir. So
Whether
there's one.
you teach chemistry in Indian, in
Okay,
Hindu,
sir.
or so you see, it's difficult. But I know that there are authors who support, who say that subjects must be taught in indigenous languages.
Okay, sir. So there's one question from Santosh Kumar, sir. And the question is, can English scholarly supremacy nullify the beauty of the classical French thinkers in the 21st century? And is it ethical to allow such a thought?
Yeah, sure, it's ethical to allow such a thought, because this is the time of global English. French had its place in the past, because for historians, you know that the French invaded England in 1066 at the Battle of Hastings. And from that time, French was introduced in England, and it dominated the indigenous languages. So today you have 41% of the vocabulary from French in the English language. So when time comes, a language becomes global. Latin used to be a global language. French was a global language, at least in Europe and in the colonies of France. But today, English is a global language, and it is ethical to use it, because that is how history tells us. The time compels us to use English. Of course, the users must use it properly.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So there are no more questions. So I would like to congratulate Professor Kaigema Jax for his outstanding presentation And I would now hand it over to Santosh Kumar, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Jacques, and thank you, Dr. Abhijay, for a wonderful moderation. This time, I would like to introduce and welcome Dr. Sheila Tako, the Dean of Education, one of our senior professor at Spice Adventist University. Ma'am, handing over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Santosh Kumar. It is my pleasure to introduce two presenters for the International Virtual Conference. Presenter number one is Mrs. Carol Kingston, our teacher who was teaching in our university. That time it was Spicer College. Now PhD candidate in IAS, Philippines. Her title is Web Tools for Teaching and Learning, Trends Among Second Language Learners, a Case Study. Born in Shillong, India, Carol Linda Kingston has experienced teaching from elementary to graduate school for more than a decade in the field of English, and presently she is a PhD candidate at IAS with Educational Administration and TESOL as emphasis, and an English instructor at IAS Academy. Her research interest is in the problems and trends in language learning, research, education, and linguistic. Present is Sengkwan Suja from Northeast Hill University. Her topic is an investigation into the teaching competency of secondary school teachers in relation to gender and teaching experience. Suja is a PhD research scholar in the Department of Education at Northeast Hill University, Shillong. She has a wide range of teaching experience. She had previously worked as an assistant lecturer in higher secondary education. She also had many years of diverse teaching experience at the College of Teacher Education, teaching educational psychology, peace education, and teacher education are some of her expertise. Now, each presenter will be given 10 minutes to elaborate on their paper, followed by 5 minutes for question answer session. Mrs. Carol Kingston, over to you. Time is yours.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's my privilege to be here at Spicer Adventist University. It's been quite some time to see you all. Well, as the title has been said, Web Tools for Teaching and Learning, Trends Among Second Language Learners. Since I'm teaching mostly the ESL learners, my research is on that for today. All right, I come from IAS. This is my institution where I am doing my PhD now. I'm on the last step of my writing and hoping to be defending very soon. This institution has taught me a lot, especially in terms of research, in both quantity and qualitative. Let's look at the background and objectives of what I'm going to be presenting today. As you see, second language teaching has changed over the years and over the centuries, and English has become one of the most, or one of the compulsory subjects in the curriculum for students. And so English language has been swinging like a pendulum, especially for the second language learners. So the objectives of the study is to explore how e-learning tools contribute to the learning process and seeks to resolve the hidden ideas of having in-depth knowledge, having previous experience about the tools, and also to find out the possible challenges and acceptance of these tools by ESL learners. And especially with this pandemic, it's quite challenging for the second language learners to get by these tools. As you can see, since I was teaching the ESL learners, it's quite, difficult for them to get by with the tools. And these innovative tools have replaced in some way or the other. And as you can see, the 21st century skills, this is one that the ESL learners need to learn, but they also have challenges to go through with such online tools to learn. These online tools will help develop and enhance learning for competencies in the field of language. And nowadays we have a lot of ESL resources that have been given online, but you need to know how to, go about, search for them, so on and so forth. Looking at the theories, there are many theories that are related with ESL learning and especially with online tools. And we have one, the cognitive multimedia theory, which helps and gives the learner the capacity to comprehend and perform the task. Well, with that, you also need motivation, because you need to have, these learners need to have motivation to learn these tools. And some of these tools make learning interesting and also makes learning creative and fun. Now, as we can see in the education field or in the English field, these e-tools can help bring a change in the education and information and enhances the learning of the second language learner. And as you can see, literature has proved a lot on that. Looking at the theoretical framework, I have chosen the self-determination theory. This is a business theory, but it is also connected with what I have been doing, because it gives the two diverse types of motivation, intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. So students or ESL learners need to have these two, because if motivation is not there, no matter how much the teacher might help to learn, it is very, very hard. And I have also taken the cognitive constructivism theory by Piaget, where he says that it helps in assimilating the new knowledge to the existing one. When you learn something new, it gives you, or it gives the learner the desire to learn more. Now, I don't know how many of you in India have ever had this opportunity to use these tools. While I was teaching the ESL learners, I have been using these, and they're quite fun, though at a moment it was quite hard for them to get through. So we have like the Padlet, the Edmodo, we have the Lino, I have many, but I have just taken a few of these pictures that I have taught the students. And right now I'm doing Moodle. I don't know whether you're acquainted with Moodle. Moodle has a lot of, things that you can, play around, fiddle around, and it's very, very interesting to help learners know. And most of my students now are learning how to use Moodle. Of course, Google Classroom is one of the most easiest ones that we can teach them, and some of them knew it already. Moving forward, we see that how can e-learning tools help? It helps in motivation, it helps in the selecting, organizing, integration, information, construction of the learning as a whole in an ESL classroom. Now, this is the research gap. In the past, limited productive, creative, and constructive activity was given to learners. In a simple way, I would say that most of the time we use books. Yes, we do have ESL books that will help the students learn. But at the same time, there are certain activities that they can also participate through the web tools that they have, and that will enhance their skills in technology. Now, with the changing needs of the hour or time, technology is developing day by day. And as you can see, like for today, I attended one webinar, an international webinar on the use of technology on English teaching. And I could see that there are lots of interesting tools that students can use for learning English. But here comes the adoption and acceptance of the e-tools. And this is one of the gaps that has set challenges for ESL learners, not only for them, but at the same time, the teacher has to see simple ways how to help them accept that these tools can help them learn at their own pace, even when the teacher is not around. I don't know if you know about this TAM model. This was by Davis in the year 1989. He has come up with this model of how an ESL learner, if he or she accepts technology and how the various aspects and the various components affect with the actual adoption of the use of technology. And one of those is I have added from my study, from the findings that I found, that clarity and competency for using technology is so important as well for them to understand. My research questions are 3. What factors contribute to the using of e-tools among ESL learners? What are the challenges faced by ESL learners in relation to using e-learning tools? How have e-learning tools helped ESL learners? This is a qualitative research design, and it's a case study. It's a single case study. Now, case studies there are many case studies. We have multiple case studies, and under which there are embedded units. So this is just a simple single case study. And here, case study helps you to explore and to identify the phenomenon. Okay? And I have used purposive sampling. You cannot use random sampling because random sampling is used only in quantitative research. Purposive sampling means you are purposely choosing students who are part of that phenomenon, not just anyone. And for my triangulation, I had 2 cycles of interview. I did not do just one interview. I had to do 2 times. And then I had my literature review. I had the focus group and also the observation report. This is just to investigate the aspects that contribute for the empowerment of students learning in language. The research setting is, I did this with one English language center here, and I had done it choosing with a maximum variation. Now this is a very qualitative word. Maximum variation means you choose students who particularly experience or are doing that, are part of that phenomenon. Not everyone. You have to see which of the students. For me, I have chosen these students who could use these e-tools effectively during the time when I was teaching them, because the rest had a lot of problems and they faced a lot of challenges while using the e-tools. Before I could collect my data, I had to follow the ethics of research. You just cannot collect data without obtaining any, permission. So I had to get the approval of the ethical review board, we say ERB, and also the administrative committee, because it is from the place where I'm teaching. And they approved, both the 2 departments approved, and then a letter of consent. You have to have an informed consent to give to the students if they are willing to participate. You cannot force participation on them. So when the consent was given, the interview was conducted. And I had 8 candidates representing from 8 different countries, both male and female, contributed to the study. So for my data analysis, the data was collected, decoded. Well, I had to transcribe, that is part of the coding process, and also part of the qualitative research process, where you have to transcribe the interviews that you have interviewed. And of course, even the focus group discussion, you have to transcribe that. Now from there, the themes and trends were derived from the data using the qualitative coding method. Well, if you want to know more about the qualitative coding method, maybe next time we can have this. Now, from the findings, the first research question: what factors contribute to the using of e-learning tools among ESL learners? Now, from the participants, now we use the word participants in qualitative research. You can also use pseudonyms if we do not really identify the names of the actual participants because we want to protect their privacy. And so the first one is performance, study efficiency, confidence, emotional motivation, skills development, and multiple learning resources. So here, one of the participants said, my skills have improved a lot using these tools in the classroom. They are good. Effort, little time needed, and easy to access, because if the teacher is not around, they can do it on their own if they are very good at it. So one of the participants said, I can assess at home and I do not have to worry where I need to submit my assignments because all our submissions are online. Social influence of the teacher and the classmate, they learn together. And if they need feedback, they, peer learning from each other, and they give feedback from among themselves to see how far they're good at those tools. Second, research questions: what are the challenges faced by ESL learners in relation to using e-learning tools? Network or connection, usage of many, delayed submission. Now, sometimes if the internet connection is not strong, there is a delay in the submission. Health problems: why? You spend too much time glaring at the screen, and that causes headaches and the eyes hurt. Then resistance to use: if you're not really good at what you're doing, then you don't feel like doing it. Time management: if there are too many assignments and the time is limited because the deadline is there, that's what they have expressed. Clarity of tools: complex and confused. Now, how as teachers we explain. Now, these are some of the challenges. If the explanation is not clear and simple, it confuses. Computer competency: slow to complex availability of time. That means their typing speed. So Mr. A says that the network is slow at times and I have to meet the deadlines. I'm not good at e-tools. Glaring at the computer for a long time hurts my eyes. The e-tools sometimes are confusing and complex as I'm a beginner. So computer competency is very much needed if an ESL learner has to learn to use these e-tools. And the third research question, how have these e-learning tools helped ESL learners? Low cost, no need of printouts because you are submitting your assignments online. More effective, if you have a good attitude, you can do it more. Cooperative learning, teachers' input and classmates. Now, for example, if I have to give a feedback, usually there is, from these tools, there are ways and means of how to give feedback and getting the students' input, or sometimes even the classmates. Educational performance, skills improve and desire to know more. Future implications, graduate seminary studies and lifelong needs. Now, if they know how to use it in the ESL, now for example, this institution where I am, we have an ESL center here, and usually students who come to this institution, they have to at least get a good grade in English. If not, they have to stay in the ESL center before they go to the graduate school or seminary for their studies. So this has helped. Lower environmental impact, eliminates paper and cuts down extra expenses because you're submitting online. Now, what are the discussion and contributions to the theory? While seeing what these findings have given, it really contributes to what the theories have said. Adoption, like for example, the adoption and acceptance of these tools do play a significant role, and this is by Davis, the TAM model. And well, yes, e-tools can bring a change, creative activities, and improve the learning skills. The emerging trends that came out from the study is self-discipline, engagement, adjustment, devoted, joy, content, learning. Conclusions, I would say that students have to be more, what should I say? They should have more knowledge, in-depth knowledge on the usage of these e-tools. More practices and emphasis should be given, more time if they are beginners, and we do have slow learners, but at the same time, it creates joy, learning kind of environment amidst the complexity, and encouragement to use these tools. And recommendation, well, the teacher has to consider spending more time in helping or giving an orientation of these e-tools. The teacher has to be patient enough to attend to their needs. Then extension of time is if the submissions are online, and the language should be clear. The orientation or the usage of language for such technology should be clear to these ESL learners because they're just beginning to learn. To consider the number of assignments being given, and more encouragement and motivation from the teacher to help them learn. And a mixed method kind of research can be carried further. You can do first a quantitative study on this, and then later on do a qualitative study. These are my references. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Carol, for this wonderful presentation. I was very much impressed with your presentation, Carol. We in our department, we conducted a mini research on how the teachers feel using e-tools, especially during this pandemic time. Now, there was a question which I would like you to ask you, which my teachers have given me when we were conducting this research in our department. They talked about the social influences. They said we are missing our students in our classroom. So e-tools are good, but how can we remove this feeling of loneliness, feeling of not having our students face to face, or the teacher is feeling, even the student must be also feeling. They are not meeting their friends side by side. They are not meeting their teachers. So what do you think about that? Can we completely replace with e-tools? Don't you think this time-tested traditional face-to-face is very, very important?
Thank you, ma'am, for that question. It's a very important question because of this pandemic. Right now in our school, we are going online. Of course, we're using Zoom and we're using Moodle. Now, for example, if you're using Moodle, there is a section where you can chat with your students eventually, even if you do not meet them face to face. Now, with my experience, I have been doing that quite a lot. And the other alternative, if in case there is, some students face problems with understanding a certain issue, I usually have an extra class in the afternoon to check on them, and they come on Zoom, or sometimes we have a messenger chat group. I have created a messenger chat group for my class. And well, we are able to communicate, we're able to socialize. Now, for example, we're in a campus, most of our students are in the campus. So it's not so challenging, but I can also tell you that those who are outside, I do have students outside, we do communicate through Zoom. I call them back and we socialize, we have a fun talk. And actually in Zoom, you can have your breakout rooms and you can rename your breakout rooms. They can socialize for at least 5 to 6 minutes. And that's what we have been doing. And yes, for some, they may still feel lonely. Yes, traditional teaching, yes, brings everybody face to face. But looking at the situation now, it's one way or the other that we have to adapt and accept and adopt the situation. Well, if we return back face to face, the situation may change. But if we do not return back face to face because of this COVID-19, then we have to adopt, adapt, and accept. Okay. And we have to try to find ways and means on how we can help them feel socialized. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, that's the same thing when I attended one webinar today on this, and they have introduced new tools And I'm just going to be going around and fiddling with them and to see how I can socialize with my students.
There are two more questions for you. Maybe you can give it very briefly because we are running out of time.
Sure,
Question
sure,
number
ma'am.
one is, what is the difference between learning management system and web tools?
Okay, what would I say? There's really, now when you say LMS, like for example, Moodle is part of the learning management system because you are submitting your work online. Google Classroom is one. But when I say web tools like Padlet, I don't know how many of you are using Padlet. Padlet is also part of the learning management system, but it's a little different. Now in a classroom, when I'm using Padlet, the other classmates can still chat with me and they can still chat with each other. Now, for example, I'm using a topic which is very important and we don't have time to discuss. Each one of them would send a message to Padlet or Lino. That's another web tool that we are using. So this has created a lot of, creative kind of learning environment for them.
Okay. The second question for you from the members is, what are the best e-tools for evaluation in online learning, especially for second language learning?
I cannot say which one is the best. It depends upon the teacher who is using it. Now, for example, I am using Moodle. Moodle has a lot of, sections where feedback is there. Then, grading system where you can give the feedback as well. I'm using that and it's very effective for me. If you're using Google Classroom, there will be a section where you can have a feedback for the students. Now, it depends upon the teacher, which web tools they are using and how effective that could be. So that's what I could say. I cannot guarantee you that this tool is the best. No, it depends upon the teacher who is using it and how effectively he or she can use it for feedback, for evaluation. And let me also remind you one thing is, for assessment, just yesterday I attended a webinar on authentic assessment. Well, you cannot, now for example, Moodle, you can have choices, choose the best or true or false. Now that is, you are not allowing the child to think creatively. Now in my class, what I'm doing is I'm doing authentic assessments that helps in the critical thinking area. We're going to a little higher level. There they have to think and write, and they will not find answers in the book as well. So my students will say, ma'am, even if we Google, we will never find answers for your questions. So in that way, we can also help them think rather than just memorize or take a book and so on. Yes.
I can understand that you are focusing, your thrust is on Moodle. Whereas here
Yes,
we
yes.
do not use Moodle, we use Google Classroom and Google Meet and all those things. That's what the university has adopted here.
Okay.
So, well, we would like to hear more about it. Maybe you can put it in the chat section regarding Google Meet and Google Classroom and how authentic assessment can be done. Maybe you can write something because we are running out of time.
Sure.
So thank you, Carol, for such a wonderful, wonderful presentation.
Yes.
And we are so happy and proud of you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Over
you.
to Suja, who is going to speak on or going to present a paper on an investigation into the teaching competency of secondary school teachers in relation to gender and teaching experience. Well, Suja, it's your time. Very interesting topic.
All right. A very good afternoon to everyone. At the outset, I take this opportunity to acknowledge my gratitude to the organizers, especially the Office of Research and Innovation of the University of Science for organizing this international virtual conference. And a special thanks goes to Spicer Adventist University for the opportunity that they have given me to present this research paper. I would also like to thank the moderator of the session, Dr. Sheila Chacko, for introducing me to the audience. And the title of this paper is An Investigation into the Teaching Competency of Secondary School Teachers in Relation to Gender and Teaching Experience. We all know that teaching is an important phenomenon. It is a goal-oriented process aimed at achieving a desired shift or improvement among learners. This process is largely dependent on the teacher's ability to perform multitasking roles inside the classroom. Competence in the teaching task will necessitate characteristics that are goal-oriented and beneficial to students and society as a whole. Teaching competency comprises of two words, teaching and competency. The Comprehensive Dictionary of Education defines teaching as the process of helping students acquire knowledge, skills, attitudes, and appreciation by means of a systematic method of instruction, and competency as a factor in interpersonal attraction, the degree of general ability or proficiency a person displays. It is a criterion by which a student can demonstrate that he or she is able to perform a learned task effectively. Therefore, teaching competency can be regarded as a product of the interaction between certain teacher characteristics and other factors that vary according to the situation in which the teacher works. Coming next to review of related literature, there are several studies on teaching competency which have been carried out. However, the locations, the level at which the study is conducted, and the tool used vary from one scholar to the next. I will not go into details to all this because we will be dealing with this in the findings and discussion. So I will skip the review of related literature. Coming to rationale of the study, we know that the role of the classroom teacher in education is central. The teacher is, after all, the point of contact between the education system and the pupil. The impact of any educational program or innovation on the pupil operates through the teacher. It is therefore quite accurate to say that teaching competency is of utmost significance for the teachers as they play a role in molding and shaping the lives of the learners. It is in this context that the researcher felt the need to take up such a study in the state of Meghalaya, particularly in Jaintia Hills district, where the dropout rate is alarming and the literacy rate, which is far below the national average, is a matter of serious concern when viewed in the context of teaching competency. Further, the shift of students from the district to other districts and states for better education raise a question on the state of education and teaching competency of teachers in the district, hence the need of the study. The objectives of the study seeks to investigate the difference in teaching competency on the basis of sex and the difference in teaching competency on the basis of teaching experience. Hypothesis of the study. The following hypotheses are stated in the now form, which is an assertion that no difference exists between or among variables. Hypothesis number 1, there is no significant difference between male and female teachers in teaching competency. Hypothesis number 2, there is no significant difference between the teachers having teaching experience of 10 years below and above in teaching competency. Methodology. The descriptive method is employed to realize the objectives of the study. Population. The study's population included all the teachers of secondary schools of Jaintia Hills district, Meghalaya. As you can see in this table, there are 2 districts in Jaintia Hills, East and West Jaintia Hills, and the schools are divided into different type of management, where we have the government aided, and private schools. In the government For East Giant Hills, we have only 5 secondary school teachers, whereas in West Giant Hills, we have 81 secondary school teachers. And in government aided in East Giant Hills, it's 164, and West Giant Hills, 523. And the private school teachers in East Giant Hills is 140, and West Giant Hills is 112, the total of which is 1,025 teachers altogether. A sample and sampling technique, representative sample of 327 secondary school teachers was drawn. Further, stratified random sampling technique was used to select the sample from the population. In this table, I've given the sample of the study based on the variable as well as the category, where we have variable sex, male, in the male category, 144 teachers, and in the female category, 183 teachers. And in the variable teaching experience, below 10 years, we have 175 teachers, and above 10 years, we have 157 teachers, a total of 327 samples. For the study, for the purpose of the study, teaching competency scale constructed by the investigator was used. For standardization of the scale, the investigator estimated item discriminating index by using alpha Cronbach, and its reliability value was found to be 0.984, indicating relatively high consistency. After item analysis, the final form of the scale consists of 49 items examining 5 parameters, which include knowledge of subject matter, instructional practice, communication skills, professionalism, and evaluation. A statistical technique, the data were analyzed by using SPSS to find the mean, standard deviation, and t-test. Based on the results of the analysis of the data, hypotheses were tested and conclusions were drawn. Now coming to finding and discussions. Objective 1 is to study the difference in teaching competency on the basis of sex. For finding out the difference in teaching competency on the basis of sex, the following null hypothesis was formulated, which is there is no significant difference between male and female teachers in teaching competency. As you can see in table 3, the difference in teaching competency between male and female teachers shows that the mean of the male teachers is 166.33, and the mean of the female teachers is 163.86, and the mean difference is 2.468, which is not statistically significant. The t-value being 0.657 is not significant at 0.05 level. Hence, the null hypothesis is accepted. The finding, it may be said, revealed that sex does not influence the teaching competency of secondary school teachers in Giant Hills, Meghalaya. This finding is in accordance with the studies conducted by Sabu in 2005, Soons 2014, Surrender 2015, Kaur and Paramjot 2016, Rajeshwari and Sri 2017, Lapasam 2018, Mahan Kumar and Narayana Swami 2018, and Shivani 2019, which found that gender does not influence the teaching competency of teachers. The finding, however, refutes the study findings of Prasad 2006, Jina 2012, Usha 2012, and Bhuttasan and Balakrishnan 2013, Jayanti 2016, and Dipti 2018, which reported significant differences exist based on gender, where female outperform males in teaching competency. On the contrary, Pan 2014, Chowdhury and Chowdhury 2015, Kartik and Hahuja 2016, and Parvin and Srivastava 2020 revealed that male teachers showed better teaching competency as compared to female teachers. Now coming to objective 2, that is to study the difference in teaching competency on the basis of teaching experience, where we have the hypothesis which states that there is no significant difference between the teachers having teaching experience of 10 years below and above in teaching competency. Table 4 shows the difference in teaching competency between the teachers having below and above 10 years of teaching experience, where the mean score obtained by teachers having 10 years below or experience is 160.69, and the mean score of the 10 years above teaching experience is 169.85, with a mean difference of 9.163 3, which is statistically significant. The calculated Q value of 2.47 is significant at 0.05 level. As a matter of fact, the null hypothesis is rejected. The study shows that teaching experience is apparently a variable that determines and affects teaching competency. This finding is in agreement with the studies conducted by Pushpam and Sundara Rajan in 2004, Ashwar in 2009, Mustafa 2013, Chauhan and Gupta 2014, Al-Gadri et al. 2018, Raja Kumari and Pashani Velu 2020, which reported that teachers having longer teaching experience had a significant impact on their teaching competency. The finding, however, contradicts that of Surender 2015 and Shivani 2019, which reported that less experienced teachers have been found to have better teaching competencies than the more experienced teachers. Implications and recommendation. The findings of the study imply that sex is not a variable that determines the teaching competency of teachers, as found from the study that male and female teachers do not differ significantly in their teaching competency. However, the study portrays that experience is a variable that determines teaching competency, as it is revealed that teachers having more experience are more competent than less experienced teachers, and as such have an implication for curriculum implementers such as the College of Teacher Educations to ensure stringent implementation of the guidelines with regards to the duration of the practicum in the B.Ed course. Further, newly inducted teachers should be placed on probation, and appropriate steps should be taken by the concerned authorities by creating opportunities and arrangement for training or orientation programs to ensure that teachers are inspired, motivated, and confident in the classroom teaching. It may not be out of context to point that there is also a strong evidence that depicts the clingy attitude of the teachers who would still resort to the methods of teaching that had expired and does not fit in the present test of times. On the other hand, it may be conjectured that the resistance to change attitude could be due to the deficiency of the why and how aspect of the different innovative pedagogical approaches to teaching learning. As a result, teachers must be motivated to try out new teaching approaches, and orientation programs with the right mindset and temperament must assist teachers in carrying out their responsibility. In conclusion, it can be said that competent teachers are those who achieve the goals which they set for themselves or that others have set for them. As a consequence, those who attempt to improve teaching competency must be cognizant of the goals imposed on teachers or the goals that teachers establish for themselves or both. Better teaching competency of teachers will sow the seed of quality education that will serve the best interests of students in whom the future of the country lies. Thank you.
Thank you for a very interesting paper presentation, Suja. And I have some questions to you. Number one, you have said that gender is not affecting the teaching competency. But at the same time, you have put the review of literature supporting your finding, as well as a research, some review of literature, which is not according to your finding. What is the difference? What made the difference? Why did those people get that there is a difference in gender? Is it the instrument which you have used which has caused the difference?
Ma'am, can you please repeat the question?
I asked you that gender, you have said that gender, there is no significant difference for teaching competency. In your review of literature also, you have supported that many have got the same kind of result. But at the same time, you have put some results which is showing that gender is a factor for teaching competency. How will you explain that?
All right, ma'am. With regards to gender, it shows that there is no significant difference.
Yes.
The reason may be because in our culture there's no I think both male and female teachers take up teaching job as a result of interest. As a result of interest, they are interested in teaching. So maybe because of that interest, we could not see the difference in male or female. There are some studies which have shown that female outperform male teachers. And what we see is that in these studies, the number of female teachers also outnumbered the male teachers, which is large in number.
Well, very good. That is a good observation, which I did not think about culture, where, as you have said, maybe those review of literatures which you have pointed out, their culture must be showing a difference in the gender, and that can be, but we do not know about it. My thought went in a different direction. Is it the instrument which you have used? And those people must have used a different instrument, which must be the cause of the significance which has come. Anyway, think about it. I would like to know about that because gender is something is very important, which we look in teaching profession. We see more of the women getting into teaching profession, especially in the schools. And the second one, which you have said, is teaching experience and teaching competency. Well, that's very, very correct. We know that as teaching experiences do affect the teaching competency. But again, in your review, we got a few of them stating that it is not the teaching services, even if the fresh ones can do better than the older folks. Maybe we need to know a little more about that. By the way, I have a very one more question. It is regarding clinging attitude. You have said that we should not have a clinging attitude. How did you get that conclusion?
You see, ma'am, this study is not based on a questionnaire or statement. The tool that was constructed was an observation schedule. So what was observed was that as teachers, we always have the tendency to keep on clinging to that, the old methods of teaching, where teachers simply resort to explanation, where there are different methods of teaching based on the subjects. Teachers, as of now, they can resort to, demonstration method. They can also resort to cooperative learning, constructivism, and they can use a variety of methods of teaching. But what was observed was that with an exceptional mega percentage, I would say, who would resort to this new style of teaching. Otherwise, the majority of the teachers have adopted the old style of teaching, which is mainly lecture or the explanation method.
Very good. I'm so glad to hear that you have used the tool of observation to come to a conclusion for this finding which you have given. Great study, and wish you all the best as you study for your PhD program.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Sheila. Thank you for moderating, and thank you, Mrs. Carroll and Ms. Suja, for your excellent presentation. At this time, I would like to introduce you to our next moderator, and we are beginning our next session, the second session. The remaining half an hour will be listening to three more presenters. Now we have Dr. Mohan Raj Wilson Israel, the Dean of the Division of Religious Studies. He'll be introducing you all to the moderator in a few minutes. Before that, we have a special song. Meanwhile, Dr. Mohan can get ready for the next session.
A hope for a song we barely understood. Now we are not afraid, although we know there's much to fear. We were moving mountains long before we knew we could. There can be a miracle when you believe. The hope is frail, it's hard to kill. Who knows what miracle
everyone. It is my pleasure to introduce our presenters, but before that, I want to say a word of thanks to Jemima. Jemima is one of our students who's very talented, good singer, and a musician as well. And we are blessed by her song this afternoon. We have three presenters whom I would introduce one after the other, and we'll also ask them to present one after the other. And at the end, we'll take up any questions that you have, and we'll have the closing remarks. Our first, by the way, I must say that these three are presenting on very important topics. The first one is a student in the graduate program here at Spicer Adventist University. The second one is a fellow colleague of mine serving in the Department of Religious Studies. And the third is a colleague in the Lord's work who is serving at Andrews. So let me first present to you the first candidate who's going to present is Mr. Benjamin Fagan. As I said, he's a graduate student at Spicer. His topic is research findings from a study on how to share the Seventh-day Adventist health message with the community in Namdunlong, Imphal. Benjamin comes to us shortly after his baptism into the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Benjamin Fagan began giving sermons, sharing presentations, and doing public speaking throughout Canada and India. He holds a bachelor's degree in health science and occupational and public health. His practical health knowledge may be confirmed by his weight loss testimony. In fact, he says that he lost, following this program strictly, he lost about 75 pounds in just 16 months, which is a great feat. Currently, he is studying theology at Spicer Adventist University in Pune, India. His interest is in Christian missions. Benjamin Fagan served 1 2-year term as Vice President of Programming for GYC Canada. He is co-founder of Chain of Truth Ministries alongside his wife, who is an Indian. Benjamin Fagan and the volunteer ministry team do medical missionary work, canvassing evangelism, and develop resources for church growth and development based on the Holy Bible and Spirit of Prophecy writings. Our second presenter is my colleague, Mr. Anish Puthuseril Joseph, who is serving in our department as one of our faculty. His topic is gender inequality in mission and ministry, impact among the female members of the Division of Religious Studies at Spicer Adventist University. Anish Joseph served as a Bible teacher for 7 years at Spicer High Secondary School before he joined as an assistant professor at Spicer Adventist University in the year 2014. He holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in theology, Spicer Memorial College then, 2005, and a Master of Arts in Religion, Andrews University, 2007. He is currently a doctoral candidate for Doctor of Missiology from Andrews University, pursuing since 2017. His research topic is an evaluative study of to understand the mission motivation of the theology students of Spicer Adventist University with missiological implications and applications. He also serves as the head dean of men at the men's hostel of Spicer Adventist University. He is blessed with his wife Sujitra, Anish, and daughters Sarina and Arina. And our last candidate for today is Dr. William Wells from Andrews University. His topic is Foreigners in America, a study of migration, mission history, and Ellen G. White's missional model. Dr. William Wells serves as the refugee coordinator for ASAP Ministries while working on completing his Doctor of Missiology from Andrews University. He has been married for nearly 4 years. One area of interest and passion is the intersection of migration and mission in his research and ministry. He also has a big passion for helping guys find freedom from addiction and loves to serve in his local church with his wife, Rahel. together when they are not working or serving, they enjoy being together in nature. So here we have three important personalities who are going to present on three different areas. And without taking much time, I want to give the time to our first presenter. Please note that each presenter will finish one after the other to save time. And at the end, we'll take up any questions. Please put your questions in your chat box, and we'll try to address your questions towards the end. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for that introduction, and thank you so much for the opportunity to share today and to share my research findings from the research that I've done. So thank you so much, and let's get started here. I'm going to try to share my screen so that you can see my presentation. And let's see here if I can get this going. Slideshow. Awesome. All right. So Nangalang, it's in northeast India, so in the state of Manipur. It has a fairly good-sized population of individuals, and I had the opportunity to research and to study a community there. So this is just a bit about myself. This is my weight loss testimony, and this is why I'm so excited to find out how to share our health message. And this is my pictures here. I lost 75 pounds in 16 months because of the wonderful health message that I discovered. So a huge change in my life. So this is why I'm so excited, and this is why I'm so excited to share with other people. All right. So what I did was, the purpose of the study was to share strategies for educating the public health from an SDA perspective. It was an empirical study using the quantitative method, and I used a well-structured questionnaire and internet resources and some writings and Zoho survey online platform to basically analyze, create, and distribute a survey. And I asked particular questions about what the people of Namdalang would like, how they like presentations, and what they'd like to know. So I had 21 responses to my questionnaire. 71% of the people who responded were from the ages of 21 to 30. And the minority of respondents, they're from 31 to 40 years of age. And 8 people that I had surveyed had no occupation. The rest of the respondents came from a variety of different areas. They came from education and training. They had a construction background, manufacturing, entertainment, even food service, sales, and healthcare. So quite diverse. So with the religious background was a little bit more interesting too. 17 people were Protestants, 3 people were Orthodox Christians, and 1 person was a Roman Catholic. So I asked questions addressing demographics, religion, and personal preferences to see what they would like and to see their preferences with regards to how to learn about the health message. So my first research finding was this. All respondents, they wanted to learn how to achieve and maintain good health. There's no one who said, I don't want to learn about good health. I don't want to learn how to take care of myself. 95% of people surveyed wanted to learn health principles from scientific resources. Now that finding didn't really surprise me, but the next finding was really encouraging for me. 85% of people surveyed wanted to learn health principles from the Bible, which I was happy about. You know, I could see how if we combined both health and science, that most people would be willing to receive the SDA health message. 14% of people didn't want to learn health principles from the Bible, which I thought a little strange because these were Christians, 21 Christians that I had talked to. 57% of respondents indicated that they would buy health books, which I thought was interesting. So they desired to read books, usually 57%, And most people wanted to hear science and scripture that would support how to achieve and maintain good health. Next research finding was presentation preference. How did the people of Namdalong want to, or what did they want to, or how did they want the information presented to them? 42% of responses were logged in favor of interactive workshops. So they wanted interactive involvement. They wanted to be exciting and hands-on. 38% responses were logged in favor of video presentations. So they liked video presentations. They wanted interactive workshops. 33.33% were interested in in-person lectures. And 9.52 responses were logged in favor of in-home presentations. And a minority basically said that, well, none of the options really suited my preferences. And no one preferred only audio presentations. So the main thrust was that they wanted something interactive. They wanted to have video involved. They didn't want to just sit there and be talked to. Location preferences. 57% of those surveyed would like someone to visit them and teach them how to achieve and maintain good health. 52% of responses indicated a desire to have health presentations in the privacy of their own home. So they want visitations, they want to have it in a place that's familiar and comfortable to them. 38% of responses basically indicated that they wanted to be in a public place, such as public squares, parks, beaches, and community centers. In Namdalong, there's a big stadium, Namdalong Stadium, and I suspect a lot of people are familiar with it and want that open environment and are interested in a public engagement with regards to the health message. 19% of responses indicated a desire to learn about health at church. So remember, these were all Christians that I had surveyed, and a minority only wanted to attend church and learn about health. Minority, which I thought was interesting. They wanted more in the privacy of their home or in a public place. When was the best time to learn? The top 3 of the most preferred days to learn about health from the Bible and science was on Saturday, Monday, and Tuesday. 52% preferred to listen to health presentations in the evenings. So if we were to do home visitations or visit people at their homes in the evenings on Saturdays, Mondays, and Tuesdays, they'd be more apt to say, hey, yeah, welcome in. I'd like to hear what you have to say. 33% preferred to listen to health presentations in the mornings, and the least favorable time was in the afternoon. So my last research finding was about the health educator. So what type of person did they want to listen to? That was what I was trying to gauge. 42% preferred their health educators to have a postgraduate doctoral degrees. So that means if you were to do house visitations or make videos and you as a presenter would have a PhD, they would be interested in listening. 80% wanted to listen to licensed medical professionals, which I thought was not surprising. We all want to listen to a doctor or a nurse. 23% of responses were logged in favor of listening to pastors or priests. So interesting is that some people wouldn't mind a pastor or priest coming to their door and saying, hey, would you like to learn about health or buy a book? 80% of respondents surveyed had no preference as to the religious affiliation of their preferred health educator. So, which I thought was interesting, you'd think Christians would like to hear more from Christians, but it didn't matter to them, most of the people. 80% of respondents said they were interested in learning how to achieve and maintain good health from Seventh-day Adventist health educators. So majority of people, if the Seventh-day Adventists came, they'd be interested in hearing from 80% said they had no gender preference, and 80% of respondents said basically they wanted most of their health educators to come from Asia. So obviously locally. So here are some strategies. So from what I discovered about strategy, we could use interactive workshops and lectures using video presentations. That may be effective. And STA health professionals should try doing home visitations and teach others about how to have good health. Local STA pastors and evangelists can offer educational workshops and presentations about how to achieve and maintain good health. Saturdays, Mondays, and Tuesdays are the best days to go out and attempt to teach others. Health professionals and evangelists should work together to get public venues where they can openly teach about the health message. And it should be conducted again on Saturdays, Mondays, Tuesdays, mornings or evenings. Now, pastors and evangelists should familiarize themselves with scientific literature, and then health professionals should familiarize themselves with Bible, scripture, so that both are balanced, so that when they present, they know both the Bible and the science, whether you're a pastor, evangelist, or a health professional. And that's it. So thank you so much, and I hope this presentation has been a blessing, and may God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Benjamin, for your presentation. We'll go straight to our next presenter, Mr. Anish Joseph.
Well, greetings to all of you. I see, can you hear me?
Yes.
I see, it's really a global conference, and I see people from all around the globe. Greetings to everyone, wherever you are. My prayer is that you stay healthy, stay safe. God be with you. Thank you, Benjamin, for your wonderful presentation. I'm straight getting into the presentation. Let me share my PPT. Can you see?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, I sincerely want to appreciate the organizers and thank you for this wonderful opportunity. I'm indeed honored to be part of this conference. Now, gender inequality, it's a wide and big general theme, and I'm not going into all the aspects of gender inequality, but my area is gender inequality in the context of mission and ministry, impact among the female members of the Division of Religious Studies here at Spicer Adventist University. Now, what led to this study is actually the number of female members in the department of Division of Religious Studies here at Spicer Adventist University. Now, this department or this division is actually one of the largest division in the university, having about 300 members or so when the study was being conducted, but the female members totaled about 26 of them. So several questions regarding why the number is less, and there could be several reasons as to why the number is less, but my area of focus was to identify how gender inequality is impacting this problem. And the study was divided into two parts. The first part was historical and biblical section, where a brief survey of history of gender inequality in the context of mission and ministry has been done. And then a biblical justification for gender equality in mission and ministry also was added, but I'll not be focusing on that. The second part of my study was a qualitative in-depth interview to find out the ground reality from the area that I have selected. Now, in order to guide the second part of my study, 4 research questions have been developed. The first one was, in what ways is gender inequality impacting the current female members of Division of Religious Studies at Spicer Adventist University here, and what are its characteristics? The second question was, according to them, meaning the female members, what is gender inequality and what are its sources or causes, and who are the actual perpetrators? Third question was, what measures can actually de-escalate gender inequality and improve the female enrollment in the Division of Religious Studies here at Spicer Adventist University? And the last question was, what factors actually motivated the women, and what are their strengths and weakness in mission and ministry? Now, the sample includes the entire female population of the division, but for the purpose of in-depth interview, a purposive sample has been selected from in this following manner: 1 participant each from 3 batches of undergraduate program, 1 participant each from 2 batches of master's program, and 2 participants from the faculty, making it a total of 7 interviews out of the 26 female members of the division. Now, the findings of the study, before I get into that, I think I need to mention this, that since this involves a human subject, an ethical or institutional review board permission has been secured from Andrews University, and also an approval from the head of the department or division. Now, the interviews were conducted using the digital platform called Google Meet because of the COVID situations, and with the permission of course, the participants. These were recorded and transcribed and then coded using Excel, and also, several codings, helped to develop themes, and there were maybe around 2 dozen major themes, and from which I had come up with 7 major themes, which actually summarizes the findings of the study. They are gender inequality, what is it according to the participants, sources, causes, and perpetrators of gender inequality, characteristics of gender inequality, impacts of gender inequality, measures to de-escalate gender inequality and improve the female enrollment in the DRS or Division of Religious Studies at Spicer, factors motivating women for mission and ministry, and strengths and weakness of women in mission and ministry. This go well along with the research questions that I've had for the study. Now, coming to the first findings, gender inequality, what is it according to the participants? There can be several definitions, descriptions about what is gender inequality, but I was interested to know, according to the participants, according to the sample, what do they think about gender inequality? And here is a quote. Kriba, name changed, one of the participants, went on to describe gender inequality as female gender being suppressed by the dominating male gender. Now, this was the kind of nature of answers that all of the participants gave. And based on that, based on their responses, this is the kind of description or definition that I've come up with. It says gender inequality was described by the participants as women being dominated, subdued, oppressed, limited, and restricted in many ways from achieving their potential, and the patriarchal culture, on the other hand, showing partiality by giving men more support, opportunities, privileges, and preferences over women at home, school, and the society at large. Now, being a male, I was curious to know, and I wanted to find out, and I asked them, do you think only females are affected by gender inequality? Some of them said yes, only females are affected, but a couple of them said no, even male are affected by gender inequality, but they think it is a rare thing and not as much as women. Now, going to the second findings, sources, causes, and perpetrators. Now, Sonia, one of the participants, name changed, stated that pastors, friends, parents, relatives, all have discouraged me by saying there are several other professions that fit well for women. Another example, Leah, another participant, name changed again, said, people, that means church members and relatives, discouraged me by saying, you will not get a desired job. And the study actually found that ignorance, lack of awareness, tradition and cultural aspects or beliefs in regard to what women can actually do in mission and ministry are contributing to the gender inequality that most of the participants faced in their life. According to the findings of the study, the perpetrators of gender inequality in the context and mission and ministry include it was difficult for me to accept, but this is the finding, includes parents, siblings, relatives, friends, teachers, pastors, church members and elders, staff and faculty in the institution, husbands, church leaders, male classmates, etc. of the participants. And this was shocking to me actually. And the sources of gender inequality that the participants mentioned include, but not limited to, family, extended families, church, school, and community at large. Now, I want all of you to take a special note. Though all these perpetrators and sources mentioned, that does not mean everybody is in this group involved in gender inequality, but in participants' life, there were some, who had to face this from the above mentioned perpetrators. Now, moving on to the third findings, characteristics of gender inequality. I'm rushing actually because we are running out of time. Negative comments from the perpetrators highlights the nature of gender inequality that the participants had to face in the context of mission and ministry. Now, they were told, the participants were told, pastoral profession does not fit for women. You cannot become, these are all in quotes, okay? You cannot become a pastor, neither you will get a desired job, nor have a good life. Another one, this is men's job and you will not be able to minister like men. You will never be ordained or be allowed to preach during divine service. You can only work with women, etc. Are a few of the examples of negative comments that the participants had to listen from various perpetrators that I just mentioned in the previous slide. The study found that the nature of gender inequality, moving from treatments driven by culturally conditioned gender roles by family and friends early on in their life, to unfair treatment to women by various perpetrators mentioned in the previous slide above, and negative remarks and questions even by church pastors, elders, and members, to the intentional taunting by the so-called church leaders. That does not include every church leader, but some of them. Now, coming to the fourth findings, impacts of gender inequality. What way gender inequality impacted? They said they were discouraged to choose the ministerial training. Their opinions were not valued and they found demeaned in many occasions. Now, recollecting her experiences of not being heard, Ruth, name changed, said, I felt my presence many times being ignored in meetings that I attended. In other words, she felt that her presence was not even felt by the male dominating members of the committees that she attended. Another participant, name changed again, Leah, shared that boys are allowed to do whatever they want, but girls are restricted from many things just because they are girls. And limited career options are a major concern that majority of the participants expressed. Kripa expressed, I felt very limited, to be honest. The only option I can see is to be a teacher. If I were a male, I could be a pastor and take care of a church. But since females are excluded from that, I'm not even thinking in that sphere right now. Women were also found concerned about ministry after marriage, citing several examples where who wanted and was really passionate about mission and ministry and joined the department once after their marriage were not able to continue, and so on. Coming to the fifth findings, it says it's about measures to de-escalate gender inequality and improve the female enrollment in the division of religious studies here at Spicer Adventist University. Majority of them felt that there should be a policy to accept women as pastors, whether or not ordained. Now, it was interesting to me that none of them actually demanded that they should be ordained. They all, did not even say or demand that women should be ordained, but they all said that there should be a policy to accept women as pastors, whether or not ordained. And all the participants felt that there should be a policy to accept women in the administrative position of the church, as leadership need not to be limited to only ordained ministers, but to qualified individuals regardless of their gender. So this is another response from the participants. Creating more career options and advocating it through awareness was another major suggestion by the participants. Kripa, name changed again, said, conducting campus placement for women graduates will certainly encourage many women to enroll in the department. So that could be another area that the department or the division or the university could look at to in order to increase the enrollment of women in the division. They felt that women not being in leadership is a contributing factor to gender inequality, thus encouraging women representation in leadership, in various leadership of the church may de-escalate gender inequality to some extent. Coming to the next, the second last findings, factors motivating women for mission and ministry. I was interested to know, though they are less in number, what really motivated them to join the department. Among the many factors that the participant mentioned stood out the call of God, Ellen White and her writings, female teachers and pastors, desire to further the kingdom of God, personal conviction, prayerful life, appeals through sermons, desire to know God and how to reach people with gospel, church leaders, senior students, forums and seminar discussions and challenges, personal quest, Sabbath problems, parents, siblings, Bible teachers, financial support, church magazines, a deep sense of gratitude and responsibility, women characters from the Bible, weekend services and Sabbath school lesson studies, mission stories and other personal testimonies and stories of missionary women, etc., have, in some way or the other, played a role in motivating all the participants that I had conducted interview with. Coming to the last findings, strengths and weakness of women in mission and ministry. Some of the disadvantages that the participants mentioned include safety concerns, ministering in the night, marriage, and further support from the husband and his family, culturally and traditionally imposed restrictions on women in several parts of our country. Limitation in the ministry to the men, many of them felt that they are limited when it comes to serving to men. Inadequate same gender peer support. They feel there are less number of women out there in the mission, and that would be a problem. Managing time between household works and ministry, even if they enter into mission, managing time will be a challenge. Areas where women ministering is not acceptable is another concern, and emotional and physical weakness is also mentioned by the participants. Now, what are the strengths of women in mission and ministry that the participants mentioned include, but not limited to, ministry to women and children, mother role, caring nature, hospitable, dealing with arguments. They felt they are better in dealing with arguments between men, etc. are actually a few to mention that that makes up the strengths of women in mission and ministry. Now, in conclusion, what I would like to say is the study actually discovered that gender inequality exists in the context of mission and ministry, and are actually women are mostly the victims of gender inequality according to the study. Women began to sense the presence of gender inequality as early as kindergarten days, because some of them mentioned how they were differently treated even as young as they were in kindergarten Sabbath school. They experienced it in their own families, extended families, churches, school, and community at large. The perpetrators included parents, siblings, relatives, teachers, church members, elders, leaders, and pastors. And I felt the very people who should be encouraging them, who should be motivating them, who should be guiding them and leading them, were also found in discouraging and demotivating. Now, although there are many encouraging factors, the study basically explored only the impacts of the gender inequality. Okay. Now, one last statement, and that is, most of the participants felt that 50% or more of Indian population is women, and one of the advantages of women is their special ability to minister well, and the possibility to reach out to the women and children much better than men. That's what they felt, because from their own experiences and so on. So 50% or more of Indian population is women. This fact is a reason that women should be encouraged and motivated in ministerial training, where they can become a great source in the mission and ministry for the coming days. And this is all from me, and I want to thank you for this wonderful opportunity to present the findings of my study. I had to rush because there was only 10 minutes, but I think I took a little more than that. Thank you once again.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anish, for your presentation. Let's straight go into our final presenter, Dr. William Wells from Andrews University. Thank you, Dr. Andrews.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I hope you can see my PowerPoint well. Obviously, when we're presenting, we're not able to see you. It's a blessing to join you, to be present. Thank you, Dr. Israel, for the introduction. Thank you, Spicer Adventist University and faculty and staff for the opportunity to participate in today's research forum. It's a blessing to share. My topic, Foreigners in America, Ellen White's missional model with migrants. I looked specifically at the years 1870 to 1915 on the topic here. And so there are really two key questions. There's a link to the journal that should be posted in the chat shortly, and it was published just recently. And so what I was wanting to know is, what is the development of her thinking regarding mission to migrants And in what ways did it overlap with immigration trends from 1870 to 1920? What actions were taken by mission pioneers during the same period? And the dates were selected because in the United States, they have a decennial census. So every 10 years on the even, they do a census. And so I looked at the census data, and the purpose was to explore in this article was to explore the progression of the three areas, namely Ellen White's Council, the migration trends, and what mission activities were taken in response to both Ellen White's appeal and the arrival of new populations in America. So the backdrop for the SDA Church to engage in world evangelism, really from, of course, the inception of the Seventh-day Adventist Church and the Advent movement post 1844. The church organized in 1863. Ellen White had the vision that a little pamphlet would go into all the world, but it wasn't yet believed that they had a worldwide mission really until the 1870s, as we will take a look briefly. Uriah Smith said that the message of the third angel is to go to all the world, but the idea was, well, we'll reach everyone in America, and that will complete our mission. And so it wasn't, by 1871, the worldwide mission wasn't fully grasped until 1873, 1874. So what role do migrants have in this? So US immigration numbers, you can read all the details in the journal article, but there's two waves of immigration from 1820 to 1860 and then 1880 to 1920. These are two major eras of immigration to the United States. The first wave were mostly Protestants, second wave were mostly Catholics, and there were numerous push and pull factors prompting migration. And so through each decade in the census, we can see the net increase of the foreign-born population in America. At its highest, 14.8% in 1890, and the largest a decade of immigration growth include the 1880s and the 1900s, those two decades. So looking at this as the background, prior to 1870, Ellen White's first comments were in 1874. So prior to 1870, the Adventist Church began publishing tracts in German and French, and a couple other languages. By 1866, the first Danish and Norwegian publications were produced. And as a result of these early publications, the planting of Adventist churches in America began to happen within these immigrant groups. Many of us may recall the Bordeaux brothers, who worked with the French-speaking people in Canada and New England, and M.B. Tchaikovsky began to work with French-speaking persons in 1858, and he was a Polish convert. So when we get into the 1870s, when immigration really began to ramp up again after the first wave, what we notice is that many prominent groups were being reached: Danish, Norwegians, Russians, Germans, French, and Swedish. 1.1 million foreign-born persons arrived in this decade, and there were 3 French churches that started, and then a German, and then the first 2 Swedish converts, and then Adventism with the Danes and the Norwegians grew rapidly during the 1870s. Ellen White notes, January 1, 1874, that we are not keeping pace with the opening providence of God. If we would follow the opening providence of God, we should be quick to discern every opening and make the most of every advantage within our reach to let the light extend and spread to other nations. God in his providence has sent men to our very doors and thrust them, as it were, into our arms, that they might learn the truth more perfectly and be qualified to do a work we could not do in getting a light before men of other tongues. So Ellen White had this perspective, had this idea, gave this counsel in the mid 1870s, saying that we're not keeping up with what God is already doing. We're behind. We're behind what God is doing in this providence by thrusting men into our arms, into our very doors, within our reach. And this was by the 1870s, and things had started occurring in mission, in church planting with migrants in America. but she gives this counsel. I don't have time to review all of the counsel. I encourage you to look at the journal article for more details. But we'll look briefly at the 1880s. So in the 1880s, in 1887 was the next direct statement about mission to migrants. 1874 to 1887, there were a lot of migrants coming to America at this time. Also, the Seventh-day Adventist Church was embroiled in some theological challenges as well. So you have the first German Seventh-day Adventist churches started in 1881. 1886, the first work with Dutch migrants began. In 1889, classes were offered in French, Danish, and Dutch, and German to begin training Adventist workers at Battle Creek College. In 1891, language departments were created for instructing and training other language-speaking individuals for ministry, and that moved until to Union College until 1911. At this time, some 500,000 Italians migrated to America, and no mission work was started with them. And so mission to foreigners in America was strengthened as the groups grew, so did their resources and influence to their countries. When we get to the 1890s, new work with new migrant groups began to be pioneered through the use of publications. Some 1 million Jews migrated to America during this time. Italians kept on coming. The first Japanese converts happened in 1894, with the first Japanese Adventist church started some 30 years later, as well as the first Japanese Adventist missionary. The first Spanish-speaking converts occurred during the 1890s as well, with 1898 being the year that the first Spanish pastor was ordained. And so work continued to grow with the migrants in the 1890s. When we get to the 1900s, the language groups that were being reached are listed on the screen. All of these language groups are being reached by the 1900s, and with pioneer work in the native tongue of each of these groups. So the new developments, briefly here, one of the key ones that I want to point out is that in 1905, the General Conference created the North American Foreign Department, which was directed by G.A. Irwin until 1909. And it was a small beginning, but it was the first coordinated attempt at reaching migrants after 30 years of appeal by Ellen White. Churches began to grow during this first decade of the 20th century. So when we get to the 1910s, before Ellen White passed away, I'll read this quote, I'll share my closing thoughts, and we'll be done. Ellen White gave this counsel. This is really the summary of all of her work over the course of some 40 years in writing about migrants and mission. She writes, God would be pleased to see far more accomplished by his people in the presentation of the truth for this time to the foreigners in America than has been done in the past. As I have testified for years, if we were quick in discerning the opening providences of God, we should be able to see in the multiplying opportunities to reach many foreigners in America, a divinely appointed means of rapidly extending the third angel's message into all the nations of the earth. God in his providence has brought men to our very doors and thrust them, as it were, into our arms, that they might learn the truth, be qualified to do a work we could not do in getting the light before men of other tongues. To close, there is a great work before us. The world is to be warned. The truth is to be translated into many languages, that all nations may enjoy its pure life-giving influence. This work calls for the exercise of all the talents that God has entrusted to our keeping: the pen, the press, the voice, the purse, and sanctified affections of the soul. So that is her concluding statement. And so to wrap up our time together, God gave the blueprint, and it was up to the church to do its duty. God gave his divinely appointed means for getting the truth into the world. And after 30 years of writing and speaking on the topic, it finally resulted in coordinated efforts. And really, Ellen White points to a balance through all of her statements that we need to be reaching foreigners, first of all, in America, and reaching the world simultaneously. They have to go together. Both must be done in equal and balanced fashion. Adventist mission grew as the young church began reaching immigrants nearby. So began reaching migrants. Their awareness of mission grew. Ellen White's appeals grew and increased as migration increased. Common patterns of ministry include literature, preaching, and church planting with young people. Migration is still happening today, and the council is just as valid today. So internationally, as we're an international conference here, what does this mean for us internationally? Migration is an international phenomenon. The principles given by Ellen White and shown in Adventism's history 100 plus years ago can be replicated in any division, union, and conference today where migrants are present. And although the historical context highlights events in America's history, the broader implication of reaching foreigners in every country globally can and will have similar impacts for worldwide gospel proclamation.
Thank you very much, Dr. William Wells. It was a very fine presentation this afternoon on your topic, Foreigners in America, a study of migration, mission history, and Ellen White's missional model. Thank you for this wonderful presentation. If you have any questions for Dr. William Hall, you can put it in the chat box, and we will answer that. He will answer it later. He will not be available with us. So I want to thank you, Dr. Wells, for your fine presentation. You know, as the Lausanne movement 2011 says, people are on the move as never before. Migration is one of the great global realities of our era. And migration and mission are the two important words which led to the worldwide growth of the Adventist Church. And thank you for presenting it so powerfully, and also to bring out the Ellen White model and how much can be done to proclaim the Advent message to my immigrants. Thank you. I also want to take this time to thank the other two presenters, Mr. Benjamin Fagan on research findings from a study on how to share the Seventh-day Adventist health message with the community in Imphal. This is also a very relevant message for us, and thank you for your presentation. We have one question for you, Mr. Benjamin, and after that we'll go to Mr. Anish. The question here for you is this is the one. 14.29% Christians did not want to learn health message from the Bible. Why? 14.29% Christians did not want to learn health message from the Bible. What is the reason? That's what this person wants to know. Would you like to respond?
Yep, I can respond to that one for sure. So there were some people in the study who are actually sort of disenfranchised with their churches. By that I mean that they had, they were like thinking about leaving their church. They were sort of losing hope in their faith, and they were leaning more towards science than they wanted to lean towards the Bible. So their faith is waning, and I think that's why they had more faith in science than they did in the Bible.
Yeah, thank you so much for that answer. I had one quick question also, Benjamin. You were talking about health and evangelism and how health workers and evangelists work together. But what about Bible and science? I think towards the end you mentioned this. Are all health workers fluent or well learned in science? What did you mean by they should be having both Bible and science?
Okay. Yeah, because some people, like naturally because of their profession, are stronger. Let's say if I'm a theologian, I'm stronger in the Bible. But if I am a health professional, I'm stronger in the science. So what I was saying was that to have a balance, right? Because people want to learn from the Bible and the science. The theologians or the Bible professionals can learn the science, need to spend more time on that. And the health professionals, the scientists, the medical professionals who spend their time with the science should also spend more time in the Bible to complement their background so that they'll be able to reach people more effectively. Dr. Manraj, you're muted.
Thank you for your presentation. and for your quick response to my question. I know that you have a special place for health ministry because it's based on your own personal experience. And I think even your master's project, you are working on a health message to other Christian denominations, if I remember correctly. So I want to wish you God's blessings as you continue your studies, and thank you for this presentation. We are coming to the last person who presented, Mr. Anish Joseph, on gender inequality in mission and ministry. Very fine presentation. I want to thank you, and this is also something which is very relevant because you chose your cases from the religion department of Spicer Adventist University, and it was a very nice presentation you made. We have just one question for you, and with that we'll close. Two questions I think we have. Okay, quickly we'll take these two questions, and with that we'll be through. The first question is, in the contemporary world, can we really justify a finding that the females are victims of gender inequality? In the contemporary world, can we really justify a finding that the females are victims of gender inequality?
Yeah, well, it depends. Gender inequality has several. Yeah, can you hear? Okay, several facets. You can look at gender inequality from different angles, but I have looked at in the context of mission and ministry, and therefore, from the findings of the study says, according to what the participant responded, that they felt that women are the victims of gender inequality, and that's one of the reasons they suggest that we have less number of female students in the department. So to that question, whether it will justify in the contemporary world in all context, studies need to be done, and only studies can tell that.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much for answering that question. The last question we have for you is, do you support women's ordination to increase women's participation in mission? I don't know how closely this is relevant to what we are doing, but I think we can answer. Do you support women's ordination to increase women's participation in mission and ministry?
Yeah, it was, a good question, and we know the church is debating over this, and there is no position right now. And I was interested to know from the women participants themselves what they say. And interestingly, in my study, I found none of them demanded for women ordination. They were happy to serve as they are, even without ordination. And I was thinking, I was expecting that some of them will at least demand, saying, in order to increase women enrollment, females should be, ordained and so on to the ministry. But it was interesting that, none of them, and they only said that if, leadership is given or administrative positions can be given for women, even if they are not ordained, ordination should not be, a criteria for, appointing women in important positions where they can serve effectively for the glory of God.
Thank you very much for answering this question. I know you also have your heart in this area. Even your research paper that you're working on for your doctoral dissertation is something to do with the mission motivation of theology students of Spicer Adventist University. So thank you for this fine presentation and also for answering the questions. I will give the time over to our to Mr. Santosh.
Well, thank you so much, all the participants. Thank you so much, Dr. Mohan, for wonderfully moderating it for us. Thank you. I had a wonderful insight in almost every presentation. I had something to learn. And I'm so excited and delighted that we were able to be part of this program. At this time, we will close it down. If anyone has any question, maybe we can keep it for tomorrow. And I will take the question and I'll post it to the presenters through email or something. Dr. Mohan, if you may want to close it with a word of prayer, and then we will depart.
Let's all bow our heads for prayer. Our gracious, loving Father in heaven, we want to thank you this afternoon in a very special way, dear Lord, for your presence with us during this very important international virtual conference on research findings. We want to thank you for being with each of our presenters and for the wonderful topics that they presented this afternoon. We thank you for their expertise in their area of study. And we want to thank you also, Lord, for the opportunity you've given us to be a part of this international platform in participating and in asking questions on areas that were presented. We pray you will bless each of our presenters, dear Lord, bless them with wisdom as they continue their ministry, continue to study and learn. And I pray that you'll bless each one of us here at Spicer as we continue this conference again tomorrow. We pray you will continue to bless us. Pray for Mr. Santosh in a special way as he has organized this. We pray you will be very close to him as he guides us through tomorrow. And we want to also thank you, Lord, for Spicer Adventist University and the administration for all the effort that they have put in to organize this conference. And we believe this would be a great blessing, not only for those here in India, but also around the globe. And so we pray, dear Lord, you will continue to be with us, keep us faithful and committed to you in all that you have called us to do. And finally, save us each one in your eternal kingdom. We pray these blessings in Jesus' precious name. Amen.
Once again, thank you so much all for joining. Thank you, Sir Dr. Sanjeevan Arsud, for being with us till the end. We really appreciate that, sir. Thank you, Pastor Varikan. Thank you, all the presenters. Please join us again tomorrow. We have more national and international presenters coming up. Thank you so much. Be healthy.